Alright guys, welcome to In the Stars with Eli Gomez this week. I am your host, Eli Gomez. Well, we got quite a lot of information to cover in this episode. First, I want to say that there will not be a podcast this weekend. Yep, you heard me right. There will not be a podcast this weekend because on Saturday, the 22nd, at 1 p.m., I will be teaching my first astrology class, and that is going to be called Finding Your Voice Using Your Astrology. You can join using the Eli Gomez Astrology link in the show notes. I would love to have you. Seats are $125.95, and this is a really important class. I just have to say, mainly because we are in a big collective action year. It is collective action oriented, and it is something that I feel like a lot of people naturally struggle with. So what better way to help people out by showing them how to use their astrology to find their voice in collective action? You know, I think it is a truly magical process of helping people out using astrology, and I am really pumped and eager to teach this class. I think we're going to have a good time. Well, actually, I know we're going to have a good time because I got a lot of fun activities planned and even a game. Yes, you heard that right. And yeah, so I am looking forward to seeing all of you who are joining me on that endeavor. Now, with that being said, I have Damien Bartlett on the show again, and we kind of give a little bit of an update for our Canadian politics predictions, and also we take a look at a couple of cities in America, and we kind of give our little thoughts and things on that, so stay tuned. And with that being said, here's Damien. Alright guys, I'm here again with Damien Bartlett. Welcome back to the show.
Hello. Hi.
So, last time you were here, we had discussed Canadian politics and all that fun stuff going on up there in the northern tips of America. So, kind of give us a little bit of a synopsis of the state up there for maybe some of our new listeners or people who haven't necessarily tuned into that episode.
Yes, we can definitely talk about that. So, as some people may or may not know, Mark Carney won by a landslide, voted by the Liberal Party in as the leader by 85.9%. And how we do things up here in Canada is we don't elect individuals, we elect parties. So when Justin Trudeau stepped down, they had to re-elect a new leader of the Liberal Party. And currently the Liberal Party is the party that is holding the majority government in Canada. So after an internal election happened, Mark Carney won it, and he just had a lunar return. So that really does shine out for him. So yeah, that is kind of what the state of things are going to be. Carney's a very interesting fellow, as we've discussed before. He is going to be doing a lot of restructuring right now. He's got Uranus that was just having a conjunction with his Jupiter, so I see him in his 11th house. So I see him going to be doing some restructuring for like policy laws, especially dealing with the fact that it's in Taurus. He's all about money, so he's going to be like really putting under an examining scope of what we need, what we don't need, getting rid of what we don't need and keeping what we do need. So I'm sure to probably shake out some people, especially in the financial oligarchs of Canada, might be getting taxed a little bit more, is what I'm seeing.
So there's a lot that's happening up there. Mark Carney being the leader of the which party again?
Liberal Party, which is your version of the Democrats.
Okay, perfect. So he's leader of that party. And then what is the other main party, and who is the leader of that?
The other main party is the Progressive Conservatives, and that is your version of Republicans, and they are being led by Pierre Poilievre, who is crashing and burning in the polls right now. And the reason he's crashing and burning is because he is beat for beat word for word, saying everything that Donald Trump is saying. And that is not flying well in Canada at all. We have people who are conservatives for the first time ever deciding to vote Liberal, who would never do that, but they also know what's at stake due to the fact that America has gone in the direction of a certain group of people from the 1930s in a certain place called Germany. So, just to expand a little bit more about also Mark Carney, he is called the Prime Minister elect, which means he is replacing the outgoing Prime Minister and is now the stand-in Prime Minister at this point. It is very likely in the next few days we will have a snap election called, because he will be potentially what will be considered his leadership might be challenged, not from his party, but from the Progressive Conservative Party. And if that's the case, we're going to the polls to vote immediately. Now, this is not great for Pierre Poilievre, because he has, right now, the Liberal Party is having an unprecedented, meteoric rise in popularity. And for the longest time, the Progressive Conservatives were doing really well. Like, Poilievre's tactics were actually working. But now we've had a wild about face. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what's going to be coming up in the next couple of days, happening wise. For example, Carney's chart is absolutely chock-full loaded. He's going to be having a solar return very soon, and that's in his 9th house. So that is possibly when he's going to be running. Possibly, officially, that's when things will happen, but we'll know for sure when that happens. It's going to be really interesting, to say the least. So, the election dates that we had given before, which was supposed to be October the 20th, may not be applicable at this point. We might have to redraw the charts and find out what happens, which changes everything for all of them. So,
Well, we said before that day was going to be questionable.
yeah, but
So, yeah, we talked about that on the podcast the first time. So that doesn't surprise me one bit.
yeah, but we might not even. What I'm saying is, we might even get to that date, depending on what happens in the next very few days. Like I said, Carney's got. Oh, and he's got the North Node is going to be passing right over his sun as well at the same time he's having a solar return. This is a big time for Carney. This is a monumental time for him. So he gonna be seen, girl. He gonna be seen. So yeah, it'll be a fateful day for him, to say the least.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the TLDR of what's coming up. We'll have to just wait and see what happens and what shakes out.
Yeah. So, kind of with that being said, if you want to know more about our conversation about Canadian politics, you can go check that out. I want to say that episode came out late January, so just kind of scroll back. It'll be a couple episodes, but definitely tune in there if that is something you want to hear about. All right, so now we have a little bit of something new. So every time I bring you on, we talk a little bit about mundane astrology and kind of what we see going on. So we have a couple of cities charts that we're going to be taking a look at least for American cities. I didn't have time, do worldwide cities, but just kind of for the sake of time and energy, we're just gonna start off by doing some American cities, and so yeah, so let's go and get into that. So the first city's chart that I have is Los Angeles.
And as we talked about before, while you're doing that, Eli, Los Angeles is going to be one of the first cities in America that's going to see some really interesting changes coming up. And we'll sort of set a semi-benchmark for what to expect for the rest of the country. So,
yeah.
And the reason for that is of that early degree Pluto in Aquarius. So they're already going through a massive restructuring as we speak.
Yeah, and so I won't be sharing the chart mainly just because it took me forever and a day just to find it and do the research. And so sometimes, astrologers, as much as we do work for humanity, sometimes we do like to gatekeep. So, and this is one of those times. And so, I may share it later on, but at least for right now, I kind of want to keep it close to my chest and, with a couple of professional astrologer groups that I'm in.
Girl
So,
boss, gatekeep, gaslight.
right? So,
Mm-hmm.
they are known for their entertainment culture, their entertainment hub, and, Sagittarius, also having, being kind of the rule of law there. Like there's a lot of law stuff that kind of happens in Los Angeles, especially within the entertainment industry. And they got Saturn in that first house. So that kind of puts a little bit more of that law into it as well. So we saw back in, I guess Pluto was in Sagittarius in late 90s, early 2000s, especially. And
Mm-hmm.
so we saw Los Angeles kind of go through some major transformations then. And that would have been with that Saturn. That would have been Pluto conjunct that Saturn there.
Yep.
So now that Pluto is entering its late second, early third house, in the next, yes, Pluto's going through Aquarius, we're going to be seeing a lot of financial institutions as well as the overall economy and transportation infrastructure being emphasized right now. It's going to have to be reconstructed, or either that or.
Yeah, when Pluto was passing through Sagittarius, like the energy of that is like really intense. So they were put under an enormous amount of pressure to like reevaluate like how the rule of law, like what is fair, and then that was all on board with a number of things that were happening. I'm thinking about, well, that was a little bit too early, but there were events previous to that that would have actually led to that reexamination. So yeah, now it's going to be like the people really needing to decide what is their value, what is valuable to them both inside and out. How do they share space with each other, that kind of thing.
Oh,
Super
yeah, for
interesting.
sure.
I gotta say, I'm looking at this chart and I would do so well in this city. I would do
That's.
so well. Oh my god.
Oftentimes when I am looking at places, whether that being country, states, cities, I'm like you, I'll be there and I'll be like, ooh, I would
Like,
be a great little addition to that city, or ooh, that city would be a great little addition to me. So
like
it's really just synastry when it comes down to it.
the sun
So
is on my sun, my Venus is on their Mercury. Oh my god. Their Venus is on my Mercury. Ugh. Ugh.
yeah,
Damn it.
their sun falls into my sixth house. So same thing with their or same thing with actually no, yeah, their sun falls into my fifth house. So their sun and Mercury both.
You'd be creative spicy there.
I would be. I would be
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
very creative, spicy. And the harder I would work, the more money I'd be bringing in because Venus would be falling straight into my sixth.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's kind of like, well, that's how I'd fare in there. And so it's fun to look at,
Mm.
apply, yourself to that. But anyhow, kind of looking at this chart, Los Angeles has an early degree Aries moon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what gives them that kind of sense of pioneer culture. Like it's that they stand out. It's a bigger city. When you
Well,
think
they
of America, you think of, if not New York, you also think of, Los Angeles or San Francisco, just those bigger cities. And it's definitely one of them.
they were the end of the original Route 66.
Yeah.
I've actually
And
been to the Santa Monica Pier and I saw that. I loved it. So
That's exciting.
yeah, it's a great city, man. Ah, anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. They're gonna be in for some interesting times.
Yeah, so they have a lot of interesting things going on right now, especially since they, like you were saying earlier, their Pluto return is in like the next year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they are a precursor as to kind of what you could apply to the United States at large for our Pluto return, which is coming up in 2035, something like that. Uh, I don't
2035.
I don't know the exact date off the top of my head, but it is something around that time. So you could kind of look to Los Angeles to kind of get a little bit of some interesting dips in the future, I guess you could say. Los Angeles is happening first there, but
It's not quite patient zero. Maybe that's not the right word, but it's definitely going to be eyes to Los Angeles to see what the rest of the country will be shaping up for. It's very exciting in the sense of turbulence that you're riding into. Kind of exciting.
oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah. So, kind of moving on to our next city, we got Memphis, Tennessee.
Let's
This
go,
one's an
Memphis.
exciting one. I really like Memphis's chart.
This is another city that I would do really well in. You've managed to pick two cities that I'd be like, man, I would kick butt here.
Well, it's also funny because both of these cities has their sun sitting on the midheaven.
Hmm. They have main character energy for sure.
Both of these
Just in
cities have main character energy.
different
I just
ways.
realized I chose the wrong chart.
Just it'll come up. Stand by, everybody. We're just picking up the correct chart. We'll just have some
Right.
little elevator music for you. Do 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 do. Picking the chart
Bam.
that is correct. There we go.
Okay, so yeah, so both of these cities has their sun on their midheaven.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting to see how both of these cities, when you think of uniqueness or standoutness or whatever you
Mm-hmm.
want to say, like they are seen. Memphis is the hub of a lot of the culture in the South, and
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles is the hub of a lot of entertainment culture. So it's fascinating how that energy ends up playing out.
Yeah. And they're going to be similarly having events happening around the Pluto in Aquarius transits because they have a Jupiter in Aquarius. Now, that's not going to happen for a little bit. How things will shake out energetically is stuff will be happening in LA first, and then a little bit later on, Memphis will be tagging in to bring some noise. But I think it's going to be really good for Memphis, actually. I
Yeah,
think
I
so.
think Memphis is actually going to end up doing pretty well. It may be a little bit rocky. Haha. I kind of say that because of infrastructure, roads, maybe
Yeah.
struggling there for the foreseeable future. But in general, I think that this will end up being a very good, and Memphis will look positively back at this time in the future.
It's going to be really people led, really community led. There will be a huge focus on, making sure things are as fair and as equitable as possible. Um, Values, like making sure that you have, is there enough food on the table for people? Is there enough to go around? There might be some, as I was saying before, there might be some policies that get created around this time that uh, make sure people's bottom lines are taken care of potentially. Um, it's all of those things are possible. Think of like when it comes to like what's going to be happening because we are entering uncharted territory with Pluto going through Aquarius. It's like a bingo card of possibilities. So just imagine, draw out a bingo card of anything you can imagine, and I actually mean anything because Aquarius has got some wild, weird energy. And just get ready and see, oh, that happened, bonk. Oh, that happened, bonk. So, but I think Memphis is going to be super dope. I really do.
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
Memphis also has that Gemini sun.
right?
So when Uranus pops into Gemini.
Ooh,
It
that's
just
gonna be
crossed,
interesting.
yeah, it just crossed their midheaven. I wonder, I wonder if Memphis is going to be in the spotlight for a little bit.
For whatever reason, I hear Breaking Bad coming into my head. Like, not the TV show, but the idea of Memphis Breaking Bad, but not like actually bad, just breaking something. Just like, nope, we're going to do things differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because Memphis does stand out in the South. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Memphis dangerous." Bruh, Little Rock is the fourth most dangerous city in America. I don't want to hear it. Memphis is not as dangerous as from other cities. And so they often get painted in a bad rap because it is majority minority culture.
Could get stabby. There could be an event that hits the news in such a big way.
It could. It could be. It may not be necessarily something that's different from
Yeah,
anything that has happened before, but this time it may be seen.
yeah, very much so. Very much
Yeah.
so. Especially with, and the event, because of that, what's happening with Pluto trining it is going to be transformative. It might be like an inciting event, potentially, that leads
Could be.
to something down the road once Pluto goes and touches off that Jupiter. Interesting.
I also have my eye. I have my eye on that I-40 bridge again
You mentioned,
because I
yeah.
know back when Uranus was conjunct Memphis's moon was when we had that issue in 2021 with that bridge having to be shut down for a couple months. So I am I'm wondering if we may see something again regarding transportation.
As I mentioned before earlier, I'd read an article last year, and I can't remember where I'd seen it because Sagittarius risings, we read everything, we don't necessarily remember everything it's from. But the article did state that all of America's infrastructures, particularly major bridges, if they do not receive immediate attention, are set to collapse sometime in the next 25 years. So possibly that's on the bingo card. We'll put it on the bingo card.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I'm also very interested to see what happens when Neptune pops into Aries because
Yeah.
look, once Neptune pops into Aries, it's going to relieve that pressure on that Saturn. So it may
Yeah.
be a little bit of a time to restructure, regroup before Uranus pops into Gemini.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of sense of easing up there too, or as well, a Claritin commercial, not sponsored, says, "I can breathe again,"
Right.
or in
Yeah.
this case, "I can see again."
Yes, things will become clearer where they've been murky before.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's going to be Yeah, so the first thing that's going to happen is that Uranus going into Gemini, and then when Neptune goes into Aries, there's a lot going on. It's going to be like boom, boom, boom. Ooh, Memphis, extra, extra, extra spicy.
Yeah, Memphis is gonna have some fun things coming their direction. But I'm also looking at maybe like Memphis's like with Uranus going into Gemini conjunct that 0 degree sun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also looking at the the state. I'm looking at state and local offices from people from Memphis
Yeah.
being in the spotlight too. So I'm curious if they're going to be put under a little bit of strain.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Yeah, especially since Memphis is pretty progressive and it is definitely more progressive than a lot of areas in the region. they already naturally stick out. I mean, that's evident in their chart just in their very nature. But especially now, I'm curious to see some interesting things that may be coming from some congressional leaders from state and local offices there.
Yep, could be. And again, that'll be coming up like pretty quick. There'll be a period that when Pluto and Aquarius goes click click, and then Neptune goes click click, and then as it heads into Jupiter, that's when but it'll be a build up once it's heading to Jupiter for that kind of thing, right? And since Jupiter does deal with laws and rules and regulations, the laws of the land, definitely on board. Interesting. Memphis, what you doing, girl? Come on now.
Well, St. Jude's Hospital is also in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Given that Pluto's going through Memphis's 6th house, well, actually just entered the 6th house of Memphis.
Yes.
I'm curious to see if there's going to be some cancer treatment innovations.
And that's their focus?
Yeah, and that could be something that is highlighted. It might bring a lot of support for. I think that's something that is definitely in the cards for Memphis.
Either more support or a breakthrough, a discovery.
Yeah, breakthrough energy, yeah.
Yes.
There's lots of room for that.
I would love that. I would honestly love that, especially for St. Jude's, because for the children, honestly. Let's see. Memphis has got stuff going on. But yeah, every single city is going to have something shaking down. We were just looking at the ones here that we really have some specific times for. And yeah. And if you're looking to relocate to a place, you should hit up Eli, because he can show you the place you're relocating to and see what would be the best place you could check out. So book him.
Yeah, that would be an astrology consultation. So we would look at if I have a date and time for a city, we can look at that, and then we can also look at the state, which I know I have a time for. So, yeah. If we're taking a look at, potential relocations, just go get that astrology consultation.
Put them to work.
But it's good work. It's rewarding work, and I enjoy it.
It is great work.
It doesn't really feel like work.
No, it's honestly, I love doing this. I love being able to look at things and see what is the possibilities of things happening, and discover what does shake down, because there's 100,000 possibilities for each sign, each planet, each house, and the combinations are endless. And so, but you can narrow it down based on seeing what's in play. So you have like I said, you have your bingo card, and you get ready, and you go, all right, let's see what's shaking out. I was being cheeky astrology there, by the way. Cheeky astrology.
Astrology. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than petty, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. All right. Thank you for joining me this week on In the Stars with Eli Gomez, and we're definitely going to have you back.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a delightful romp.
Yeah, of course.
Alright guys, let's go ahead and do some patron shoutouts. So this week we got Lori, Jen, Nicole, Glenn, Matilda, Nicole, Spencer, Jamie, Issy, and Ayla. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this podcast, and it helps me continue doing what I love to do best, which is astrology and podcasting and all those things. And I am really excited to say that I am actually leveling up this podcast in May. So I'm going to be getting an apartment with a couple friends, and I'm going to actually be able to have a studio in there. And so that's going to be a whole lot of fun, because that means more content as well as also helping me stay organized, because right now my studio is my desk where I have all sorts of things going on there. I do school there, I do some work there, I do all the things, and let's just say that poor little desk has seen a lot of things, and so it'll be nice being able to have my own studio space where I can record and just have that be its own separate space. And I'm looking forward to having a background and so much fun. And I'm also going to be bringing on Brooklyn a whole lot more once I start having that space created and all of that. So you'll get to see kind of like a 2.0 of In the Stars with Eli Gomez. And that'll be in May, of course, but until then, we got a lot of fun content that I have up my sleeve for you. And then, yeah, I think that's really about it for this week. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching or listening, and I will see you all tomorrow.